Entering the Mayo Experience.
That Mayo Experience. That Mayo Experience. That Mayo Experience. Experience.
Welcome to the Pat Mayo Experience Week 4 rankings by position. If you want the full list of rankings, because we're not going to have graphical accompaniment, because as you can see, I'm not at my home studio or even my big studio right now. We are traveling on the road this week with the Pat Mayo Experience for the President's Cup. So the rankings list, it's down in the description. You can just click on it and go through and follow along. Hell, you don't even need to listen. I would prefer you watch and listen and sub to the channel and smash the like and sub to the newsletter. But frankly, if it's just the rankings you're interested in, they're on Pro Football Network and they're down in the description, the full list, and they'll be updated every single morning along with the full injury report. So let's get into that with the running backs to begin off right now. Alvin Kamara has a ribs and hip issue, but it's not looking like anything serious, just a veteran's rest day. He is still in the rankings. I wouldn't worry about it unless he starts missing continuous practices. Mainly the Friday practice would be the big one for him against Atlanta this week. Austin Eckler, I do not have in with his concussion sustained on Monday night. I will still do the Saturday full recap show for some of the guys that I've left out of the rankings right now. If it seems like they're tracking to come back in, well, hell, I'll put them back in the rankings and we'll talk about it. So come back on Saturday as well if you want updates on those guys if they end up in. Najee with his arm brace is expected in. I have Jaylen Warren out right now. He could end up practicing and getting back in, but this is a sweet matchup against the Colts, so Najee gets the bump up. Cordero I have as the number 2 right now in the Steelers backfield, but he's still going to run a few routes. He'll get a few carries. This just sounds like a game where Fields is going to take off a bunch and Najee is going to end up doing some damage on the ground, even if it is for 3.2 yards per carry. I have him as running back number 20 for the week. The only real outliers in the top of the rankings right now, it's all the guys you would expect with Eckler out. Brian Robinson is number 9 against the Cardinals. Jeremy McNichols would be the one who would get the extra run in the backfield, but I wouldn't expect him to play more than 15-20% of the snaps. It's going to be Daniels on the ground. It's going to be Brian Robinson on the ground, and that makes him in this high shootout game against a not great run defense in Cardinals on the fast track, a fantastic Week 4 play. So you get him in. Zach Moss at number 15 as well. It's very clear he's the guy and not Chase Brown. He's getting the carries. Even when they're behind, he still almost got himself to 13 carries last week. Scored the touchdown. He is the utilization in the passing game as well, because although Chase Brown is a better pass catcher than Zach Moss, he is awful in pass protection. So for anything that you might need to block for Joe Burrow in the backfield, Zach Moss is going to be there. More injuries. Joe Mixon still has not returned to practice. I have him leaning out right now. However, Dameon Pierce has returned on a limited basis. I still go Akers over Pierce, but they're both bumped way down in the rankings, even against Jacksonville, because I have no idea how that split is going to go. Pierce coming back from a hamstring, who was already in the doghouse begin the year with D'Amico Ryans. It's not like I expect him to come back and have 85% of the touches. No, I would expect Cam Akers, who played okay last week against the Vikings, to still get probably 50%, 55%. Let's just call him 50%. Let's call Pierce 30, 35%, and then Dare on passing downs, 2-minute drills will probably end up soaking up 15 to 20% of the backfield touches in Houston. It doesn't leave a whole lot of fantasy points to go around, at least no safe fantasy points to go around. So I have Cam Akers at number 31 in the running back rankings and Dameon Pierce at number 37 in the running back rankings right now. I have Kenneth Walker as in playing right now. Now, if he does not play, Charbonnet becomes a top 10 option against the Detroit Lions on Monday night. But the scary part about this, I mean, you're going to play Charbonnet probably either way. Even with Kenneth Walker in, I have him at number 23 in the rankings. I have Kenneth Walker at number 27. Now, if Kenneth Walker practices on full on Friday, but Saturday is the big practice for him because it's Monday Night Football. If he is full go, no limitations taken off the injury report, he will resume his regular place as a top 15 fantasy running back, and then Charbonnet is probably not much of a play, flex at best. But as it stands right now, currently with the injury report, I would be big time Charbonnet over Walker. And like I said, if Walker ends up missing with this oblique injury again, bump up Charbonnet inside the top 10. Mostert, not sure yet. Again, that's a Monday night game. Saturday will tell the tale on that. Lucky Pierre Strong for the Cleveland Browns is leaning out in this game, which just means more Foreman, more Ford. I like Ford more than Foreman once again, but it's not like you really like Jerome Ford against anyone or any of these Cleveland players. Jerome Ford is the highest ranked Cleveland running back. He is at number 28 in the rankings. Again, hit the description. You can find all of the updated rankings down there in pure list form. And use code Mayo at Underdog Fantasy right now. Get yourself a deposit bonus of up to $1,000. And there's a free square this week. So instant winner, Patrick Mahomes. If you think he can go over 0.5 total yards against the Chargers, I think that he can do that. If you think he can do that, you should go to Underdog right now and use code Mayo. Get that pick, get that deposit bonus, and hey, you're already in the black for the year. So you just figure it out, all right? Wide receiver rankings for the week. We'll start with the injuries. Marvin Harrison popped up with a quadriceps injury. This sounds like it's probably not going to be nothing, but it's just putting it on the radar. I didn't take him out of the rankings or bump him down. It could just be something that popped up. Tank Dell, ribs, and wrist. Still has not practiced, at least on Wednesday. I'm recording this on Thursday morning. I have him in like they said that he was going to be fine. Maybe they are lying to us. If he continues not practicing, we got a problem. For now, he's in the rankings, and he is third of the Houston wide receivers. He's still pretty highly up. I have him at number 29 in the rankings. Maybe that is a bit too high, but as you'll see from my wide receiver rankings this week, I made some pretty big adjustments. For example, like I have Juwan Jennings, because Debo is expected to be out, and I don't know if Kittle practices on a limited basis. Still don't expect him to play this week. So I have Ayuk at number 9 and Juwan Jennings at number 22. Like Shakir is all the way up at number 21 now. Godwin is ahead of Evans. Jaden Reed, presumably with Jordan Love, who's like 60-40 to play this week, is back up to number 15. Even if Willis ends up playing, Malik Willis ends up playing. I still like Jaden Reed as a top 20 option, but it would be Romeo Doubs, who I have at number 39. He would drop down a little bit. I still bumped up Watson and Dontavian Wicks. They're inside the top 50, top 55 right now is like fringe 4, 5s, deeper league type flex plays. But if Malik Willis is quarterback, those guys are the ones who take the biggest hit. They stand to benefit the most if Jordan Love ends up playing. Sorry, I'm getting all my guys mixed up here on the road. Yeah, it's been long nights going through. Like Roma Dunze is now inside the top 35. Xavier Worthy is in the mid 30s, where you have other names that you would have trusted earlier, like Michael Pittman is number 40. Like he doesn't do anything. You probably don't want to play him. And that's just a brutal matchup against Pittsburgh. I do have Alec Pierce inside the top 50. I do have Pittman over Pierce. Maybe that's wrong at this point. And if it continues going down this road, then Pierce will be ahead of Pittman moving forward. But I do want to see the snap shares that Alec Pierce sees, especially in 2 wide receiver sets, now that Josh Downs is back for another week and ends up at full health. Alec Pierce is sort of like the low-rent version of Rashid Shaheed at the moment. Like, Shaheed could have caught 2 touchdowns last week. He had those 2 end zone targets. He could have come down with both of them. He didn't. He scored 0 points. But you know that he's going to end up with these gigantic ADOT games, a ton of air yards, and the potential to score a bunch of points. And he's just more of a fixture in a heavier passing volume offense. Not by much, but a heavier passing volume offense, the Saints over the Colts. Like, the Colts don't want to pass if they don't need to. They might need to this week, which could be a whole world of problems with TJ Watt and Anthony Richardson's face. Spoiler alert, the Pittsburgh Steelers are the number 1 fantasy defense of the week. Now, maybe I got that game way off. The Colts jump up to a big lead, or they pass all over the Steelers, but that just seems very unlikely at the moment. So the overall opportunity is really what's separate. I mean, I think Shaheed's a better player than Alec Pierce anyway, and I think that the quarterback, Derek Carr, is probably able to get him the ball a little bit more, and they'll use him on a few screener routes as well. It just seems like Pierce is in this offense to run deep routes down the field, take 2 shots a game, and hopefully it works out. But that's why there's such a huge difference between those guys in the rankings right now. Devonta Smith and A.J. Brown, I both have out right now for the Eagles. Both could play. Both are unlikely to play. It's another week for A.J. Brown with the hamstring. I would actually say that A.J. Brown probably has a better chance to play than Devonta Smith. So if they both play, listen, Brown's going to be a top 15, top 10 option at receiver. You're not sitting A.J. Brown, even though he might not be 100%. With Devonta Smith, it's a little bit tougher. If it's just him, obviously he's a top 15 play because he's going to soak in all of these targets from Jalen Hurts. Problem is, one hit and he could be absolutely done. And Covey ended up going on IR as well. He's out 6 to 8 weeks with a shoulder injury. So assuming, which my rankings do, that all these guys are out, Johnny Wilson is the top-rated Eagles wide receiver right now, and he is at number 64 in the wide receiver rankings. I just have no trust in this offense. That's why I made Tampa my super lock of the week. Goddard's going to be number 1 at tight end. Barkley's number 1 at running back. Hurts is still a fine play because of those 2 guys and what he does with his leg. Maybe they'll go back and start using the tush-push a little bit more. He can score some rushing touchdowns, but just his rushing volume and ability to score fantasy points that way is going to keep him in that 5 to 7 range at quarterback. I can actually go check on the actual number for you right now, and you can too down in the description. But for the QBs, he is ranked number 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 in the rankings. That's just behind Kyler Murray, just ahead of Joe Burrow. He is fine. It's just the overall upside without Brown and Smith in the lineup would be somewhat capped. If all those guys were there and they were all healthy, he'd be the number 1 guy. That's not the case, so he's not for the week. Still a start, however. Debo, I do not think comes back. Keenan Allen looks like he's 50-50 to play this week for the Chicago Bears, in a pretty decent matchup against the Rams at home. I would have him ranked probably outside the top 50 right now because of the limitations, the chance for re-aggravation of this injury, which seems pretty high, and the connection that Caleb Williams has started to establish with both Rome Odunze and Cole Kmet. Those are the only 2 guys, unless it's a Hail Mary that still doesn't end up as a touchdown, that actually catch passes from this guy down the field. So Rome Odunze is number 36 in the rankings. I still have DJ Moore up there, but he's starting to fall down. He's at number 28. Eventually, they're going to figure out a way to manufacture touches for him. And what we've seen at a Bears camp earlier this week is they want to give Roshan Johnson a bigger look in this backfield, mainly because DeAndre Swift is awful, and Khalil Herbert apparently can only play inside the 3-yard line. So maybe that's another out in the passing game if Roshan's able to do that, but I would just be looking at Moore because of the ingrained talent that we know that he has, the pay that they give him to manufacture some touches on his own. But Odunze does seem to be the one with the real connection. It's just, he's still a rookie. It's still Caleb Williams, so there's only so much faith that you can put in these guys in your fantasy roster. Jordan Palmer, we still don't know. Darius Slayton on Thursday night, we do not know. You probably don't want to play those guys anyway. Quentin Johnson is still the highest ranked of the Chargers receivers. He comes in at number 30 in the rankings. That's 1 spot behind Tank Dell, 1 spot ahead of Zay Flowers against the Bills this week. Adam Thielen was placed on injured reserve, and that means our guy, Deontay Johnson, has skyrocketed back up in the rankings. He is number 7 in the wide receiver rankings this week against a pretty porous Bengals defense, and obviously he and Dalton have the connection. After him, I did move up Tommy Tremble in the tight end rankings into the mid-teens. You're not going out of your way to start Tommy Tremble, but I do have Xavier Legette inside the 50 to 60 range, and a little bit below that, I have Jonathan Mingo. You don't want to put too much faith into any of these guys, the guys that you want to play on the Panthers. Dalton, if you have to. It's a good matchup. I can see it. In revenge situation against the Bengals. Deontay Johnson for sure. Chuba Hubbard is a solid mid-tier running back too this week. He is inside the top 20 at running back. And then that's probably it of guys that you want to play from Carolina. If you need some deeper plays, they're all available. You can pick your poison, but there are more likely better pickups that you can go to that are available depending on the size of the league that you play in. Jordan Addison, still 50-50. I didn't rank him, but I have Jalen Naylor at number 49. Dude loves touchdowns. And there was a Jalen Naylor drive last week, and that's basically all he did. But it was worth it if you ended up playing him, especially on DraftKings, that low $4,000 range. If he comes back, I don't think that many of them, Addison with an ankle injury, is he going to be 100% utilize that speed? I don't know. It's against the Packers. Packers D is pretty good. It's just going to be Justin Jefferson all the time. He's not the sort of player whose upside is large enough that I would have to jam into my lineup the first moment that he returned from injury.
A few years back, the irons were the best part of my golf game. But after a swing change about 2.5 years ago, my driver's an absolute weapon at this point, but all of a sudden I couldn't hit my long irons, and even some of my short irons just were not going on the same trajectory that I always wanted them to, or at least that they used to do. So when I heard how the new PXG Black Ops irons can dramatically improve my game, of course I had to give them a try. Anything to improve my golf game. So I called up PXG and I got my current irons and I took the PXG Irons Challenge and it has been amazing. The consistency off the club face is unparalleled to any club that I have ever used. Best thing about these irons is because I feel so comfortable that I'm gonna hit the sweet spot on them, I can control the club face, the high, the low, the cut, the draw, no problem. And the new PXG Black Ops irons are the game improvement missile launchers that are going to give you explosive distance, and it's going to feel softer than a baby bunny. The new Black Ops irons are incredibly easy to hit and maximize performance and fun, because getting better is fun. Oh, and they're only $149.99 a stick. That's a great price for a great golf iron. Take the PXG Irons Challenge. It's a ton of fun, and if PXG's new Black Ops irons don't outperform your current irons by delivering either more distance or tighter dispersion, that means better accuracy, during your fitting, you'll get a $100 MasterCard rewards card. Hurry! This offer ends October 7th. Book your fitting today at pxg.com. That's pxg.com. Passion, drive, patience. The formula for winning championships is also what keeps your ride or die alive. eBay Motors has everything you need to maintain your vehicle and level it up to peak performance. Supercharger, exhaust kits, LED headlights, and more. Whether you're into speed, power, or style, eBay Motors has you covered. With over 122 million parts for your number one ride or die, you'll always find exactly what you're looking for. And with eBay Guaranteed Fit, your part is guaranteed to fit your ride every time or your money back. Because with eBay Motors, you're burning rubber, not cash. With all the parts you need at the prices you want. It's easy to make your car the MVP and bring home huge wins. Keep your ride or die alive at ebaymotors.com. Eligible items only, exclusions apply.
Tight end injuries for the week. Evan Ingram still hasn't practiced. He's questionable. He's missed the last 2 weeks with that hamstring injury. Trey McBride's probably not going to play with a concussion. He might pass protocol. We'll wait and see. I did not put him in. I did put in Sam Laporta, who's dealing with an ankle injury right now, but I do not have him at 100%. In terms of the rankings, he's still pretty high up there because it's tight end, and tight end is absolutely god-awful at the moment. So Laporta's number 4 in the rankings. If he was to sit, Brock Wright would end up at tight end number 10, and I would play Brock Wright over Travis Kelce in week number 4 for your fantasy team because that's where we've plummeted to right now at the tight end position. Overall, Goddard's number 1, Bowers is number 2, Ferguson is number 3, then it's Laporta at 4. After that, you have Kincaid, Ertz, Cole Kmet, Hunter Henry, Firemouth at number 9, Travis Kelce at 10, Tyler Conklin, Isaiah Likely, Mark Andrews, Mike Gesicki, Colby Parkinson, Kyle Pitts, Cade Otton, Tommy Tremble, Dalton Schultz, and Noah Fant. Those are the top 20 tight ends this week. Tight end is an awful position, so hopefully you got a good one. Taysom Hill may return. Kittle may return. I have them all as out right now. Davis Allen, we still don't know, and David Njoku. We just don't know what's going on. I do know that you probably don't want many pieces of the Browns offense, so that probably makes your decision on David Njoku not so bad anyway. But those are the injuries that we're looking at tight end. Once again, all the rankings in the description right now. Okay? Quarterbacks. Justin Herbert is looking like he's going to play. Both tackles are out. That's bad. Josh Palmer's banged up. That's bad. They're playing the Chiefs. That's bad. It's not going to look good for Justin Herbert in week number 4. So going through, now in terms of the quarterback rankings, he's way down. Like he's in the low to mid 20s. And where are we at here where did I put him? Yeah, he is number 25 in the quarterback rankings this week. So probably Justin Herbert you don't want in there. Taylor Heineke you probably wouldn't want in there either. He would be ranked even lower. He'd be the only guy ahead of Jacoby Brissett for the week. Overall quarterback rankings, because Jordan Love, do I have him in? I do have him in right now, but clearly not at 100%. Malik Willis would probably be like just outside the top 20. Like Jordan Love was a very difficult one to rank. I probably wouldn't want to play him. I have him at number 16 in the rankings right now. That's a spot behind Aaron Rodgers, a spot ahead of Andy Dalton, 2 ahead of Daniel Jones. If you had Jordan Love and you picked up Daniel Jones, you might just want to play him on Thursday night. I mean, Daniel Jones has never won a game that hasn't been played on Sunday, so maybe you don't want to play him. But this rush defense for the Cowboys is so bad right now. So, I mean, Singletary, that would be good. Malik Neighbors, top 5 wide receiver this week. Maybe Daniel Jones can come along for the ride, run away from Parsons, and actually pick up some useful yardage on the ground and help bolster your fantasy day. But he's also Daniel Jones, and this can go pumpkin very quickly. Skylar Thompson, I do have leaning out as a part of these rankings. Tyler Huntley ends up as my starting quarterback for the week. Obviously, we don't know. I don't know the answer to that. They probably know what the answer is. They just ain't telling us right now. But I did bump down Tyreek. I bumped down Waddle. Like, there's only so far I feel like you can bump down Tyreek because of how much he can do by himself, but I have him number 19 in the wide receiver rankings this week. That is 2 spots behind Terry McLaurin, 1 behind Devontae Adams, 1 spot ahead of Garrett Wilson, who has a terrible matchup again this week against Patrick Surtain. Then Khalil Shakir, T. Higgins, Juwan Johnson, they're all in that same range right now as Tyreek Hill, as mid to low tier number 2s. As it pertains to Jalen Waddle, it's less good. I have him number 49 in the rankings. Maybe he can overcome that, but he has less skill than Tyreek Hill, fewer opportunities than Tyreek Hill. Maybe he can develop an established connection with whoever ends up playing quarterback. But I really do, especially against the Titans, just try to run the ball as much as possible, or just punt on first down to Will Levis, and maybe he'll throw you a pick six every single time, and you can end up winning that way. These are the strategic moves of the Miami Dolphins, of what they can employ on Monday Night Football this week. But for fantasy options, it's looking very bad at the skill positions outside of Devin Achane right now, who is a top 10 running back. If Mostert ends up going, I'd keep Achane where he is and bolster Raheem Mostert into the mid-20s. Better than the Jerome Fords of the world, lesser than the Devin Singletaries of the world in a plus matchup on Thursday night. If that's a decision that you needed to make earlier on in the week, I would go Singletary without waiting for any of that news to come out. Even if we knew the news was happening, I'd still probably play Singletary over Mostert this week. Overall, the quarterback rankings, Jaden Daniels, he goes up to number 1 in this shootout against Kyler Murray, who's at number 4 in the rankings. So Daniels, Allen, Lamar, they're playing each other. Kyler Murray, Jalen Hurts at number 5. Burrow, Stroud, Dak, Justin Fields in a plus matchup. Then Patrick Mahomes against the Chargers at number 10. Carson Steele, I still have rated as the highest of the running backs for the Chiefs, and Kareem Hunt got activated to the roster. I don't know how much any of these guys are going to be in there. It feels like there's only so much upside to go around in the backfield for the Chiefs in non-Pacheco terms. So for me, it does go Carson Steele, Samaje Perine, then Kareem Hunt, because Carson Steele is likely to get a goal line touch if they end up getting down there and don't throw the ball. But you're probably looking at 15 total touches, maybe because they're such big favorites. It might just be a punt-off week for the Chargers, and they can just run the ball with impunity, and it's not going to matter. I would be worried about his capped upside. If you were one of the people who spent all their fab budget on him, it's probably a terrible idea, is what you're figuring out right now, because there's only so much skill that he has. It's a great opportunity, but if the skill doesn't match up, you just end up with Cam Akers who you're just hoping can fall into the end zone because he's not doing anything else outside of that in order to score fantasy points. The second tier of quarterbacks this week, it's like Geno and Goff against each other on Monday night. Baker, Anthony Richardson, Aaron Rodgers, Jordan Love, Andy Dalton, Daniel Jones, Derek Carr, Sam Darnold. We're now down into number 20, and you're probably all right. In terms of defenses for the week, some streamers, some solid options that you can look at. The Steelers are number 1, Jets are number 2, Miami Dolphins number 3 on Monday night. They do not have a good defense, but they, as I looked at the schedule, are playing Will Levis, who I said before will give the other team the ball and ask them to score. Whether or not the Dolphins take that opportunity, I don't know, but it is a fantastic opportunity, so they're at number 3. Niners, Bears, Chiefs, Raiders, Saints, Falcons, Vikings to round out the top 10. Dallas on Thursday night, Packers, Texans, Browns, Bengals, Rams, Bucks against the Eagles, and that beat up offense. Broncos, Eagles against the Bucks, and the Detroit Lions on Monday Night Football. If you really need a deep team, Tennessee has a pretty good defense. We don't know who's starting at running back or at quarterback for the Dolphins. I would anticipate they try to run as much as possible because unlike Seattle last week, Tennessee's going to have a harder time jumping out to a big lead, theoretically, because their offense isn't as good. So the Dolphins can then run the ball as much as possible, which really limits the overall upside and actual scoring opportunity for the Titans defense against the Dolphins if they end up facing 55 rushing attempts. That is the abbreviated version of the Week 4 rankings. We'll be back to normal next week in Week 5 with the graphics, with everything else. So thank you for coming along with me on this one. Smash the like and sub to the channel while you're here, and you can get all the rankings right now down in the description. Anytime an injury happens, that will be updated, so you bookmark that page. Okay? Smash the like while you're here, too. I'm Pat Mayo. I'll see you next time.
Mayo experience! Experience!